Hello, my name is Lee Barnhart. I'm the Director of Spiritual Care and Special Projects for Shriver's Hospice here in Zanesville, Ohio. I wanted to take a few minutes today to talk about a topic that deals with coping with grief emotionally and spiritually in light of COVID. I want to specifically look at some strategies or some coping skills that support the elderly. During this time of an age of COVID, a lot of the elderly are in nursing homes and they're not able to see their families. Some of them are only allowed to see a nurse from outside, a hospice nurse from outside the facility once a week. So there's a lot of isolation that's taking place, and it makes it really difficult on folks that are in these homes. In fact, families are somewhat isolated as well because they cannot be there seeing their loved ones. So what can we do in supporting and providing hope for the grieving elderly? Well, there's virtual visits that we can provide. And I know that it's not the same as being face-to-face with your loved one, but we could get creative. We can I know they always say use Zoom, use FaceTime, and those kinds of things. I've even seen it where they're outside a facility looking in a window and they're speaking to one another over the phone. It's not quite the same, but at least there's that interaction. Also, the idea of getting back to what we might call snail mail and mailing cards and letters to one another. I know a lot of my grandparents and my great-grandparents, when they were around, they spent a lot of time sending cards and letters to all kinds of folks, friends, loved ones. So it's a good tool, and they look forward to getting that mail and being able to read it. Another idea is to enhance their space. If they're in the home, living at their home or living with a loved one, enhance their space, make it bright. Put things in there that they love to do, love to view, love to look at. Maybe it'll be art that they're creating. Maybe they like to paint. Find those things that brighten that space up so that they feel more comfortable during this time of isolation. The other thing to be concerned about is their mental health. This is a really difficult time. The more you're isolated, the more depressed you may become, the more sadness you may have, and the more separation you feel. So always consider the mental health of the individual. A lot of the things that we can do in supporting them and one another increases our mental health in a positive way. And then another thing that I really love to do, a lot of times when I'm out visiting patients in the home, I get a chance to talk to them about their story. They get an opportunity at this point to have communication with me about where they were born, what they did as a teenager, as a young person, what they did as a young adult, marriage, children, grandchildren. Did they serve in the armed forces? So it gives them a really good opportunity to connect with someone one-on-one and begin to tell their story, because their story is just as important as everyone else's story. It's just that they may be near the end of their story. And so we all have a journey. So let's focus on building everyone up with telling those stories. Lastly, when it comes to supporting and providing hope for the grieving elderly, encourage them to keep the news and media at a minimum. I don't know about you, but everywhere it seems I'm hearing something in the news and the media, whether it's social media through Facebook, Twitter, cable news, satellite. We've got all these things that we can attach ourselves to, like these smartphones that have, it's a computer in our hand, and we get all kinds of news and television. And so take that into consideration when you're working with the elderly that are grieving. Keep them away from that as much as possible. Not that they shouldn't, but minimize that. One part of this is faith in God and its positive effects. What can it do? Well, it can assist individuals in coping with adversity and grief. People in their faith have a better outcome because their faith encourages them, their faith in God, it strengthens them and helps them with the adversity and the grief. The other thing is to encourage individuals to reframe events through a hopeful lens. And reframing an event is to look at that event through like another type of lens. Something that was terrible, difficult, caused a lot of anxiety, a lot of pain, a lot of grief. Reframe that and take a look at the things that are going on in that situation and find some nuggets that are positive that will build that individual up. The other thing is faith allows us to foster a sense of connectedness. When we're in fact, with my lowest times, if I couldn't be around somebody, my faith in God and reading scriptures and praying and meditating on the things of God were a real source of connectiveness to me. And so that's one of the things that faith in God provides as far as a positive effect. Lastly is cultivating and connecting through practicing faith. We need that connection. Whatever your faith preference is, we still need that connection to the divine, some say. I say the connection to my Father God. And it cultivates that by practicing my faith. So I want to encourage you to look for those things that are going to support the elderly in their time of grief. COVID is here with us, and it sounds like it's not going away anytime soon. I'd like to remind you to reach out to the Mental Health Recovery Services Board as a way of using as a resource. Reach out to them if you have any concerns, any trouble with dealing with the grief, and if you have a loved one that's elderly and they're struggling with grief as well. Use them as a resource, and please be sure to get help if someone is having a terrible time with grief. Thank you.